Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Kiddushin, page 71, which discusses when it comes to getting married, it's very important to not just look at the person you're considering to marry, but also to investigate and look into their family, which is in Hebrew called having good yichus. And the Talmud talked about in the times of the temple, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, Ezra, who went from Babylonia to Israel, he made Babylonia a place which had exceptional yichus, because anyone who had any potential invalidation, the person maybe would be considered an apostle, he brought them to Israel, where there was wise individuals that would know. Then this way they would not end up mixing in with everyone else. But Babylonia was known to have, at the time, the absolute best yichus. On this, the Talmud says that even though that may be true, there is something else that is just as important, in fact, if not more important, that when we are engaged in examining who is someone who is proper for marriage, the way that we do this is we look at shtika, silence. In fact, it says, in general, if you would see two people fighting and one person stops and they're silent, that shows that that person literally has better yichus. But, of course, it doesn't just mean that they had, as we're trying to understand here, a better family upbringing, and therefore that's probably why their behavior is this way. But in addition to that, also when it comes to marriage, if you see someone that is silent often, that also is a very good sign that that's a person you wish to marry. And certainly on the most simplistic level, when you're dealing in marriage, which there's potential conflict, that if each person is trying to create a resolution, that even though you think you're right, you could easily back down at any point and be flexible and accepting, and to be silent, even though maybe you have something to say, but because you're interested in being able to create shalom bayis, peace in your house with your spouse, with your family, your wife. So in that situation, that shows that there's something very special about you as a person. And that is something that one should be looking at. Now, the idea of being quiet doesn't just mean that they're shy. That's not what it's referring to. It means you really have something that you have to say. You could perhaps be someone that loves to boast and show off. Well, unfortunately, we know many people with this type of approach. And usually when you look at those people, they themselves may have a little bit of a vacuum that they need to fill. They're constantly trying to look for approval from others, which nowadays in social media, perhaps that's compared to getting a lot of likes, getting a lot of views, and that makes you feel good. The reality is you shouldn't need all these likes from strangers. You shouldn't need that form of affirmation, but rather you should be someone that is comfortable as you are as a person. And if you're silent, that means you're not someone that has to constantly be talking and showing off. And that is something, again, which shows a very positive, strong quality. And I believe what the Talmud here is telling us is not necessarily a quality that a person just naturally picks up. It's something in which is connected to their family. It's probably something that they've seen in their own house, perhaps by their own parents, of the way that they interact with one another, and how it's more important to be able to get along and to be able to have a good relationship than to always be right in a fight. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be right. So on this, the Talmud again tells us that when you're looking for that person to marry, you should look for someone that has this quality of being able to be quiet. Doesn't mean to shut them up, because you also should have that quality. You should both be able to stop and listen and to be receptive of others. We find this doesn't always happen. Unfortunately, in colleges, campuses, we see people who scream and don't let the other person talk. That usually shows that that person has something wrong within themselves.